Hello and welcome to another Auspex Tactics review. Today we'll be looking at the new Iron Father for the Iron Hands chapter. That will be Iron Father Feirros. Here at Auspex Tactics we like to focus on the best ways we can make the Imperium competitive to purge the Xenos and the Heretics as they rightly deserve. And oh boy, have we been given a decent new tool with this new Iron Father. Seriously, his rules are just that good. In this review we'll look at his stats, his special rules, and how he will fit into an Iron Hands chapter army on the tabletop. So without further ado, let's get into his stats. So Iron Father Feirros is an HQ choice for Iron Hands Space Marines. He is 110 points to field, and the easiest way to think about him is he is a very souped up tech marine wearing Gravis armor. He's got a base movement of 5, weapon skill of 3 up, ballistic skill of 2 up, strength 4, toughness 5, 7 wounds, attacks 5, leadership 9, and a 2 up save. Also, due to his aura ability, which we'll get into later, he also has a 5 up invul save. He comes equipped with a bolt pistol, Gorgon's Wrath, which is his souped up heavy bolter, Harrow Hand, his massive axe, and 2 servo arms. Gorgon's Wrath is a heavy 3 heavy bolter with strength 5, AP -2 and damage 2. As you're playing Iron Hands, you'll usually be in the Devastator doctrine the entire time, so the AP will actually be -3. Harrow Hand, the enormous axe, is strength +3, AP -2 and damage 2, so that's usually hitting with strength 7. Frankly, that's an already pretty strong melee profile, particularly as he's got 5 attacks and 2 servo arm attacks on top of that, so that's 7 very nasty damage profile attacks. Just in case you're not familiar, the servo arms mean that he can get an additional attack with each one of those, and they're AP -2, damage 3 attacks at strength 8. But this very nice melee profile is only the start of it, as he has quite a lot of nice special rules. To start with, he personally has a 5 up Feel No Pain save, so basically a boosted version of the Iron Hands normal 6 up Feel No Pain. This instead stops him from losing a wound on a 5 up. As with all Space Marines, he has Angels of Death, so that gets you the Shock Assault, so he will actually have 6 attacks on the charge, Bolter Discipline, which doesn't really apply to him, and also Combat Doctrines, so the AV -1 on the Heavy Bolter for being in Devastator Doctrine. He has a Signum Array, which sounds like a boosted version of what the Space Marine Devastator Sergeants carry. So if he's within 3 inch of a friendly Iron Hands model, then that unit can treat its ballistic skill as being a 2 up. This will be very very good on units such as a Repulsor, which has a lot of guns and a ballistic skill of 3+, or a large unit of Aggressors or Devastator Centurions. Basically, the bigger the unit, the more you get out of it, as it's improving the ballistic skill for the whole unit. Also, like all Tech Marines, he can give the Blessing of the Omnissiah, so he can repair vehicles that are nearby him within 1 inch. Except because he is better than them, he can repair a vehicle for 3 wounds rather than D3 like they normally can. Incidentally, Iron Hands have a stratagem that allows a Tech Marine to use this ability twice. He does have the Tech Marine keyword, so he can use this stratagem, so for 1 CP he will be healing a vehicle for 6 wounds a turn. I don't think I really need to say quite how good that is. Usually when you pay for a Space Marine vehicle, it usually costs around 10 points per wound or more, something along those lines. So by repairing 6 wounds of health for a vehicle, he's essentially generating around about 60 points worth of Space Marine vehicle each turn if you feed him a CP. But there is more. Possibly the best benefit of bringing this guy along is his special rule called Rites of Tempering. He gives himself and models within 6 inches of him a 5 up invul save. Because of the way that it's worded and how Games Workshop have clarified how within and entirely within means, the way that this works is that if any of your Iron Hands units even have the slightest part of their model within 6 inches of him, they will gain that 5 up invul save. Now, I think that this is a really useful rule because it makes a lot of Space Marine vehicles that were otherwise a bit fragile to be a lot more durable on the tabletop. This is just a brilliant rule to be running alongside things like Storm Talon gunships, repulsors, repulsor executioners, Redemptor dreadnoughts. These are all units that pack a decent punch for their points cost, but they generally have the vulnerability of getting guns straight off the table before they've had enough time to do what they need to do. So, how would you best run this guy? The simple answer to that is to surround him with as many vehicles as is practical, to make the use of the invul save, and to give him targets to repair. You could walk him forward up the centre of the battlefield with a bunch of Redemptor dreadnoughts or Invictor tactical war suits. Maybe have a repulsor executioner trundling along behind him. Just basically make sure these units are within 6 inches of this guy so they can get his invul save. As they're iron hands, they'll be moving and shooting with no penalty to their heavy weapons, and they'll already be re-rolling ones for their heavy weapons, and they won't have to worry about a captain being nearby as well. I would probably recommend running at least one really big unit, probably a repulsor executioner along with him, to take maximal advantage of hitting on 2-up. If the enemy does get close enough to your castle of deadly vehicles, then he can always charge a counter-attack, and he doesn't have a bad melee profile in himself. So, overall impressions, I think that this new Iron Father might be about one of the most undercosted models in the whole of Warhammer 40k at the moment. If you just compare him to other similar units that provide similar buffs, then it's obvious to see just how good he is. For example, you might take a chaplain with the Litany to give +1 to hit. He gets this for free, and he doesn't have to roll a 3-up to trigger it. He's incredibly tough to take out. With those 7 wounds, 5-up feel no pain and 5-up invul, he actually will take more las cannon hits to bring him down than a Redemptor dreadnought would. Great melee profile, gives out invuls like they're candy, and of course he can heal vehicles around him for 6 wounds per turn with a CP investment. I honestly think that he'd probably have a place in some competitive lists even if he costs 200 points, but he costs 110. So he's definitely an auto-include if you want to play competitive Iron Hand Space Marines. I hope that review has been of some use. I'd be very scared to see this guy on the other side of the tabletop from me. If you'd like to see other similar reviews, then please subscribe. I'm going to try and cover a bunch of units from the new Space Marine Codex and the supplements, and some broader tactics for Space Marines and Imperial units in general.